Good morning, church. We're in chapter 6 of 2 Corinthians. And as we begin this chapter, I want to point you back to the last verse, chapter 5, because it really sets the precedent of what he's talking about in the beginning of this chapter. First verse in chapter 6 says, "We then," and it kind of points back. Well, it doesn't kind of, it does point back to that last verse. Because of this last verse in chapter 5, the continuation of his thought goes on into chapter 6. The division is not really needed there, but it's a complete thought. And you need to go back and read verse 21. It's very important. It says in verse 21 of chapter 5, "For he made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God in him." Think about that. Dwell on the fact that God made his Son to become sin for us, so that you and I can become righteous before God through his Son. And because of that, verse 1 begins, "We then, as workers together with him, also plead with you not to receive the grace of God in vain." To receive God's grace in vain. Don't do it. He tells us, he pleads with us not to do it. Grace is not, or the vain rather, is not vain like being proud or convinced that you're much more than you really are. It's not that kind of vain at all. The Greek word means empty. So the English rendering is actually definition number 2 for us in vain, which means producing no result or to be useless. To receive God's grace in vain and become useless. To do no works. To do nothing for God's glory. To receive all that gift and that preciousness of his grace for what his Son went through. And then Paul begins in verse 5 through verse 10 of all the things that you may go through that you need to not be useless in, to not take that grace that he's given to you in vain. I would ask that you would dwell on these things and really think about what Christ has done for you, how he's taken your place, and how we're not to take it in vain. Don't be a useless Christian. God bless y'all. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.